Moana 2 has changed Moana's life forever. She has transformed into something completely new. We learned that there are powerful enemies rising against her, and it's made very clear that her journey is just beginning. But what exactly happened to Moana, and what does it all mean for her future? It's time to break down Moana 2's ending. Oh, and spoilers are ahead. Okay, so I just want to jump into the craziest thing that happened in Moana's second voyage. She died. Moana was struck by lightning just after she touched Motefetu. While she broke the curse over the island that once unified the people of the ocean, she lost her life in the process. And this was something that I wasn't expecting to see at all. There was this ominous sentiment throughout Moana 2 that suggested that Moana might not return from this adventure. Her younger sister especially seemed concerned for her life, and Grandma Tala talked about how life continues to change us. But I personally wasn't too worried about Moana's fate. I have to admit that the constant goo and slime jokes and the juvenile humor and the lighthearted nature of most of the story just didn't lead me to believe that this was going to be the end of Moana's story. But for a moment, she was lost. Not only did Moana die though, but at the same time, Maui had also been stripped of his powers as a demigod by Nalo, the god of storms. Now, in Moana, we were told that Maui got his shape-shifting abilities from his magical fishhook, but in Moana 2, when his tattoos disappeared, it seemed his strength, his immortality, and the power to transform with his magical fishhook faded away. But why did this happen? Why was Maui hated by Nalo? I mean, Maui was chosen by the gods to become a demigod, so why would the god of storms fight against him? While we don't exactly know why Nalo hates Maui, I think we can make a pretty good guess about the history between them. You see, Maui was the demigod who gave people islands, coconuts, and fire. He created the conditions for humans to expand and thrive across the world, and according to the art of Moana 2, Nalo was jealous of human connection. He's envious of humankind. Nalo cut off the channels connecting the people of the ocean to attempt to make himself more powerful. And since Maui is a champion of humankind, it makes sense that at some point they would come into conflict. Now, I don't know why Nalo refused to strip Maui of his demigod powers as soon as they began to clash, but something must have held him back. Personally, it seems like if the gods came together to select Maui to become a demigod, then it doesn't seem like an individual god should be able to create or destroy a demigod on their own. But that's what Nalo was capable of doing. Of course, there were a few thousand years where Maui took himself out of the affairs of the world when he was separated from his hook and got stranded on an island. Maybe Nalo thought that the best punishment for Maui was to keep him alive so that he would be forced to see his precious humans be destroyed by the darkness that he unleashed by stealing Te Fiti's heart. I mean, Nalo also imprisoned the demigoddess Matangi within the giant clam and didn't take her powers away, so it's not an unprecedented decision for him. Once Moana freed Maui from his island and was trained as a wayfinder though, Nalo no longer was interested in holding back in his fight against humankind. But Moana and Maui couldn't be stopped. Nalo took Maui's demigod powers away and literally killed Moana, and still they came out victorious. You see, after Maui became immortal, he went after Moana and they reunited in a bubble formed by the ocean at the top of Motefetu. While the ocean may have been unable to look after Moana when the area was trapped in a never-ending storm, once Moana lifted the curse, the ocean was able to help her friend once again. Moana's ancestors then came to her side and arranged themselves in a swirling pattern that calls back to the heart of Te Fiti. And this is important as it symbolically shows that the ancestors were present to restore Moana's life. Together, they allowed magic to flow through them into Moana's body, and suddenly a tattoo formed across her arm. The island of Motefetu, the constellation Moana was in search of to find the island, and streams of water flowing to the lost island appeared on Moana. Through Maui, we had previously learned that demigods often have tattoos across their bodies to showcase their most important memories and their greatest achievements. So once Moana began to have her own journey documented across her body, it became clear that she was being brought back to life as a demigod. And this mirrors Maui's own story. Thousands of years ago, when Maui was thrown into the sea by his family, the gods bestowed him with his powers and his magical fishhook. And now Moana has gone through a similar transformation. But why was Moana brought back to life? Well, Moana has proven herself as a hero. When she was just a toddler, she chose to save the life of a baby sea turtle, overtaking a beautiful seashell. She went in search of Maui, became the first mortal to enter the realm of monsters, and returned Te Fiti's heart. Moana had the love and respect of the ocean. She had gratitude from the goddess Te Fiti, and she had the adoration of her people. Moana had the same thing Maui had when he was chosen by the gods.
Maybe the ocean brought you to them because it saw someone who is worthy of being saved.
Moana was chosen by the gods to have her life extended so that she could continue her mission. She is going to push humankind further than they've ever gone before. Now, after the ocean returned Maui's hook to him, Moana's paddle was then brought to her with a new glowing golden design across it. This seems to be her demigod weapon, which will now most likely provide her with new abilities and powers unlike anything a Wayfinder has ever unleashed before. It seems like she will be able to be guided to new locations across the world. What's interesting though is that when Maui got his hook back, his tattoos returned to him, which seems to suggest that his hook can restore his powers as a demigod. But it didn't seem like his hook was the source of all of his abilities in the original film. I mean, Maui was separated from his hook for 1,000 years, and when his hook was destroyed, he wasn't turned into a mortal. So I find it interesting that his demigod status could be brought back to him simply by reuniting with his hook. To me, it seems like if a god took away his powers, then a god would need to restore them as well. But for now, all we know is that he's a demigod once again. With Moana and Maui alive and well, Maui then pulled Motofetu from the sea, and immediately the currents returned to the island. Wayfinders from islands across the ocean then began to come together for the first time in centuries. And of course, Moana decided to take them all to her island of Motunui. But Moana's purpose has been expanded. The Art of Moana 2 explains that her future is bigger than her island. She is not just Moana of Motunui anymore. She is now Moana of the entire ocean. Moana has a responsibility to look after all of the people that exist across every island. But what is Moana's plan going forward? What is she going to do leading up to the events of Moana 3? Well, in my mind, the people of the ocean have to fundamentally change in a significant way. The sacrifice of Moana and her ancestor Tautaivasa can't be for nothing. Their efforts to bring everyone together have to mean something, because we are told that Moana's people would be erased from existence if they didn't come together. So what will they do now that they're united? Well, I assume that they must confront the threat of Nalo. In the mid-credit scene of Moana 2, Nalo, the god of storms, is shown to be plotting his next steps. His vendetta against humankind has intensified now that Moana has openly defied and embarrassed him with Maui's assistance. A mortal has broken a god's curse, and he'll have to decide how he's going to take his revenge and prove his strength to the world. But no matter how powerful Nalo may be, there are heroes set to oppose him. Honestly, the big wild card in Moana's future, though, is Matangi. She's a demigoddess who is cunning and dangerous without a clear motive. Seems like she must have done something pretty terrible to get on Maui's bad side and to be imprisoned within the giant clan. And personally, I don't think she should be underestimated. There's something going on with her. So regardless of how Moana and Maui will fare against Nalo, I think Matangi could create a lot of problems for them in the future. But what do you think? Will Nalo or Matangi become the main villain of Moana 3? How do you feel about Moana becoming a demigoddess? And do you think Pua will want to go on the next adventure? Let me know down in the comments along with any other ideas you have for future Moana 2 videos. And finally, I'm Isaac Carlson. Thanks for watching and have a magical day.